Hi guys, as you can see I'm not sat by the river today. I'm actually in my back garden. I thought I'd do a video for you. I've had a few questions online regarding the gear I use, rigs, how I approach things, so I thought I'd run you through my gear that I use for the various places I fish, just to give you a better idea of exactly how I rig up. As you're probably aware if you've seen any of my videos, I fish two sort of distinctive areas. If I put you just briefly in the picture, at the front of my house, across the road effectively, is a weir. To the left of that, as we look at the front door, it's deep, it's slow, and that's where I've been catching the bream. Good for carp up there as well. And to the right, obviously, is below the weir, much faster, and where we've been getting the barbel. So I've got two distinct sort of setups that I use. My rods stay set up all the time. I've got a pair of rods, barbel rods, that I use obviously below the weir, and I've got three carp, barbel, sort of bream rods that I use above the weir. So what I'm going to do now is just run you through exactly what I've got, how I use it, and how I gear up. Well, just to make things really easy, depending on where I'm going fishing, I use two rod bags, and I can just grab one, grab the other, depending on where I'm going. And here, my old rod bag, really old and beaten up, got my two barbel rods, Anastasia's feeder rod sits in there as well. And in this one, you have my three helicopter rig setups, my sort of carpy setups. So we'll run through these in turn. I think we'll start with barbel rods. Right guys, to start off, as I said, we'll run through the barbel rods. I've made a recent change to these, which I'll show you in a minute. But to run through the hardware first, these rods are the John Wilson signature barbel quiver rods, they're Rovex. They are £1.75 test curve. Absolutely love them. You can use them in the standard 11-foot version, or there's a piece that goes in here, another 2-foot piece if you want to extend these to 13 foot. Now, fishing the Avon, which is like 10 or 12 meters wide, don't need 13-foot rod. I guess you would if you were sort of float fishing with them or something. They come with a changeable top section as well, where you can put the normal Avon piece in, or you can fish with the quiver tips as I've got in here. If I shimmy this along, you'll see I have got the green quiver tip in. You can see that against the camera. This is the heaviest one. Yeah, I'm fishing for barbel. You know, huge bites. Not worried about the stiffness of this. I do like the thicker one. All these are white as well, which is a great thing at night. As it's just getting dark, it stays visible for a lot longer than a black tip, which I know because Anastasia fishes with me quite often, and her tip is red and black and much harder to see. What I'm going to add to these actually today, which is why I've got the gear out, is I've actually I've gone away from using the isotopes. I find you get tangled sometimes. The line wraps around the top of the isotope as it's sticking off the top of it. I just don't like them. So one or two things I'm going to do. I'm going to go really old school, and what I've done is I've got a really small torch, which I have put a bank stick adapter on it. I can screw that into a low bank stick. Now, those of you who've seen my videos previously will go, you hate lights, you hate lights, you hate torches. Very true, which is why this is second option. If I need to, I used to fish like this a lot, is I put it really low to the ground, just literally a couple of inches off the ground. It's got like a ball joint on it. And what I can do, butterfly, what I can do is I point that upwards at the bottom of the rods, so it's not disturbing, it's not pointing at the water, and what I'll do is turn that on and not touch it again, so it's just there, it's permanent, and it's a very small torch. That's the second option. The first option I'm going to try, which I'll show you in a moment, is I've bought some fluorescent tape, sorry I should say luminous tape, Now I was a bit dubious about this. As a metre of it was £1, and I thought, yeah, and it's supposed to be glowing still 3 hours after the last bit of lights on it, because they effectively charge themselves up, don't they? So don't know, we'll see if it works or not. It's arrived today. I've gone in the understairs cupboard and shut the door, and it's absolutely glowing like a beacon. So how good it is, I don't know. What I've done is bought a 10mm wide roll of a metre of it, and what I'm going to do is just wrap it a few places along this tip and see what happens. I bought the 10mm so it doesn't mess up with the action of the rod. So I'm going to wrap a few pieces of these, and then next time we go we'll see what happens. So moving on to reels, recently got some Shimano's, some very small Shimano's. I love my small reels. These are 2500 size, really small. They only hold like 100 meters of sort of 12-pound line. That's all I need, you know. I'm fishing 5-6 meters usually, so it's not a problem at all. These are the Hyper Loops. I couldn't believe the price of them, guys. These things, I got a pair of these for under £30. And they're Shimano's. I mean, Shimano's, in my opinion, are fantastic reels. Got Shimano's on my other rod as well. They're fantastic. Whilst I'm bandying about these names of all these companies, it's worth mentioning that I'm just an angler like you guys. I'm not sponsored, I'm not paid to advertise anyone's tackle. I just use what fits in with my fishing and what I find is the best. So obviously going through my gear, I'm going to be mentioning a lot of tackle companies' names. I'm not recommending them, I'm not saying you buy their stuff, I'm not saying they're the best even, but I'm just saying they're the most suited to my fishing. So just bear that in mind while I'm throwing all these company names at you. Right, now guys, down to the business end. Now these are my running rigs, and as I said, I've made a little change to these recently, so I'm just going to run you through what I've done. Now bottom end of these is quick change swivel, you can see that there. That's why I've got a light top on. Quick change swivel, obviously hook links onto there, change them really quickly, change whatever you want really quickly. I think hook links I'll run through in a while after I've finished all doing the rods and talking about the rods and the gear and stuff, because I tie all my own hook links. So there you go, quick chain swivel there, just a standard, bog standard quick chain swivel, tied on with a grinner knot. I'm pretty sure it's a grinner knot. It's the one I've always used anyway. Next up, as we move up towards the top of the rod, is the free running ring there and the buffer sleeve that goes with it. Now what you'll see is that if I do it like that, that swivel will pull nicely and sit on the inside of there. That's the idea. And then this, which is hold your feeder or your lead or whatever, with this little clip on it. I do like these spring clips. That holds your swim feeder, as I say, or your lead. Also this I clip up onto the rings of my rod, not through the ring though, through the leg, and that's what I tighten up to, and that's how I leave my gear set up all the time. So that, I'm not sure that's the one it came with. I think these are Corum. I'm not sure that's a particular clip it came with, but I do love these clips. I use these on my helicopter setups as well. I've got some here. They are called rolling swivels with hook snap. That's what it says on this box anyway. 10 in a packet. These are size 4s there, if you can see them. Again, no names on these. This is just an eBay job. I think it's like £2 for, I don't know, 10 in there. Just very cheap. To be honest with you, I don't use the swivel part of them. I just use the clips on both my rods. Take the swivel off the clip and just use the clip, and that's the clip that's on here. I do prefer these sort of clips. Anyway, moving up from that is the bit that I've changed. What I've started doing, if you saw my videos, is I had a lump of putty. This is actually dark matter, called a dark matter putty, but whatever takes your fancy. And I was putting that about or maybe a metre above the feeder. Idea being it gets the line onto the ground, onto the floor of the river, should I say, the river bed even, which pins everything down. Because I don't like using these big long hook links, you know, 4 foot hook links. I don't get on with them at all. I much prefer using sort of 18-inch hook links. But the problem with that is, as your line's coming at an angle off the riverbed, the fish can touch it and they can spook, which is why people use big long hook links. I thought about it the other way around and picked it up from Mark Erdwin as well, with putting this putty above your feeder, fishing as slack a line as you can, and that'll pin the line above the feeder to the floor, lake bed, riverbed. Now what I moved this a stage on, I took a little bit of an idea from my helicopter rigs, which you'll look at in a minute, is to put some tungsten tubing on above. So I've got about 1 metre of this tungsten tubing on now. This stuff's really heavy. It's free running on the line. It's a bit of a pig getting the line through. If it's wet, you're wasting your time. You'll never get it through. You need to dry it off first. I mean, I use, this is 12-pound line on here. It just about goes through with a bit of fiddling, a bit of feeding. I can just about do that. It's not quite 1 metre, but it's sort of 2.5 foot. The longer you try and put through, the more you struggle. But if it's dry and the line's dry, you can generally get it through. Nice scissor cut. So I'll cut a bit of an angle on the front of the line as well, rather than cutting it straight. Cut a bit of an angle, feed it through downwards as well. That gravity helps me, and you can get it through. One problem I found with this on my helicopter setup as well is this tends to ride up as well. It all moves about. Now it obviously has got to come off the line. It's got to be a safe rig. Can't stress that enough. Rigs have got to be safe rigs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, what I mean is, if the line snaps, what you can't have is a barbel or a carp or bream or anything dragging around a load of tungsten tubing, a swim feeder, etc, etc, all the rest of the stuff that's on here. What's got to happen is this has all got to come off and leave the fish, okay, with a hook in it, which it will throw out. You know, they'll pop out. A lot of hooks are barbless these days, or micro barb. It'll fall out, or the rig will it'll work loose and it'll come out. So if the fish is dragging all this lot around, it's going to die, isn't it? So the rig's got to be safe. This has all got to come off with the minimum of pressure. As I said, the swivel pops in there with a minimum of pressure. That'll come out without a problem at all. I've got now this tungsten tubing on here, which is running up and down, and all I've got holding that now in place is a tiny little, it's actually a float stop. Now again, that slide off the line, minimum of pressure. As I said, I can't stress this enough, guys, you've got to use safe rigs. At the end of the day, we all go fishing, I think, generally because we like fish and we don't want to kill them, do we? So anyway, that having said, I also like to just drop a bit of putty on the top of that as well, so that is now locked that in position. But as I say, it is a safe rig. This will come off. So guys, in essence, that's my running rig setup. The free running piece now is running, the feeder link is running on that tungsten tubing, which is going to protect the line even more. We've got a quick change swivel changing our hook links. There's a bit of putty holding this all down at the other end. I guess proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating, so when we go fishing again, which will probably be tomorrow evening now, today being Saturday, I think we're going to go, it's bank holiday weekend, 27th, 26th today, so it'll be 27th I think we go. I don't think we're going to squeeze a trip in tonight. We'll test this out, see how we get on. And as I said, we'll be able to use some shorter hook links on this, because this is all pinned down 2.5 foot above the feeder. Right, let's now have a look at the helicopter setups. So the rods with the helicopter setups on. These are my slightly heavier setups, more geared toward carp fishing and for the bigger barbel. The rods are Fox Warriors. They are the 2 1/4 pound test curves, he says, reading it off the back, 12 foot long. They're much more of a carp rod, as you can see, big rings, and obviously much stiffer than the barbel rods. Now this is as heavy as I need to go. I mean, to me this is like a broom handle. I know to a lot of carp guys, you know, they use 3 pound test curve rods and stuff, but this is this is as stiff a rod as I think I'd ever use. It's, you know, except for my spotting out in the river and stuff, I wouldn't use anything heavier than this, but for actual fishing. But these are my, as I said, helicopter rigs. Effectively it's a bolt setup. I do like this setup. Again, I can clip this up very easily onto the rod, leave them set up all the time. I can get down the river at a minute's notice and be fishing literally 5 minutes after I arrive and have a rod in the water. You probably notice on my videos it's all quick hit fishing with me. Live over the road from the river, you know, got a young family, don't have hours and hours and days, you know, don't go night fishing, very rarely. Me and Anastasia might sneak a trip in a few weeks, but it really is a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there. So every minute I spend setting up, sat on the riverbank messing about, not fishing, is a minute I've lost of my fishing. So to me, speed is essential. I could be at the river in 2 minutes. I want to be fishing 5 minutes after that. Right, onto the reels. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Shimano's. These have the bait runner function on them. These are the 4000 FBs, 4000 reels. They're big ones for me. Bait runner function. I do like that when I'm fishing up above the weir where it's slow. You can set 3 of these rods up. You know, a lot less bites up there. A lot more weighting, and you know, I can sit back, watch the surroundings. I don't have to concentrate on the tip of my rod. Got the alarms on, bait runners on, and obviously I can adjust them if fishing up snags and stuff. I can lock them up, but just give me that option when I'm fishing out in the middle. So from there, oh, butterfly's back again, likes me today. From there, again, I'll work from the end of the line up. First thing that goes onto the line this time is, once again, one of these fellas with the swivel removed. As you can see there, once again, tied on. It's better against my shirt, isn't it? Tied on with a grinner knot, just there. Now that is the end of the line. Above that, I've got a Fox. Pull that off there. A Fox, I think it's a chod heli sleeve they're called. I like these. They're matched up with these size 4 swivels. Let me just make sure they're a size 4. Yeah, size 4. As I say, I don't use a swivel bit, because if I don't use a swivel bit, that will tuck nicely into this, inside this sleeve, and the top of the lead or the feeder will just nick inside there, and it's all nicely covered up. So we've got that. Next on is the chod heli sleeve. Next thing above that is, again, quick change swivel. You see that there. This time with the big ring on it. The big ring running on the line. And that will sit, obviously, on top of that chod heli buffer sleeve tail. And that protects the main line from being yanked at a funny angle. No one likes being yanked at a funny angle. Above that, I've got a bead. Now, you'll have to excuse me, I can't remember what it is. This is either a Fox or a Corda bead. I'm not sure. But what I found is, I don't know if you can see that there, this will squeeze on the top of that chod heli sleeve and just nip on. And it just stops that lifting up, but it will pop off. without any pressure at all. Once again, safe rigs, really important. So that will sit there all the time. This just nipped onto the top of there, stops it coming up on the cast, no problem at all. Any pressure and it will come off. That's the key to all of this stuff. And what I do above that is, once again, I've got my lovely tungsten tubing, which I favour. Now this, what I've done to, just so there's a nice smooth joint between the top of this chod heli sleeve, that you can see there now that that's pulled inside. You can see that. There's just enough for the eye of the feeder or the lead to sit inside there. Makes it real completely tangle proof. I never have tangles with this gear. So what I've done at the bottom of this tungsten tubing is put a small just piece of tubing. It's like I'm not sure exactly what tubing it is, just like anti-tangle tubing, I guess. There's only about a 10mm long piece that sits on the bottom of this tungsten tubing, and that will just sit over the top of the chod heli sleeve, and it just gives a nice smooth joint between the two, rather than this stopping and then the tubing starting, the tungsten tubing should I say. It's just smooths that joint over. But again, it's not locked in place at all. As you can see, this all comes apart, no problem at all. And that's really about it for this. I've got the tungsten tubing, again, running up the line, about 2.5 foot, something like that, as much as you can feed on. This one, you can probably see that against my shirt, there's a lump of putty in the middle of there. There's two reasons for that. Firstly, it helps pin all this down. And secondly, I seem to remember when I was putting this on, I had a bit of a game. I don't know, some gunge had got up the middle of it. I could only feed that much on, so all I did was cut it and fed this on in 2 pieces. Does exactly the same job, just join it together, that bit of dark matter putty there. Again, coming up to the top, just to stop this all riding up on the cast. There's a piece of putty, and under that again, just a float stop. That will slide, no problem at all. This will all come off. Once again, nice safe rig. And that's it. Very occasionally, if it's pushing through above the weir here, and I'm fishing with this gig, because I tend to use this stuff above the weir and the running rigs below the weir. What I will do is just pull that top piece of putty apart from there, and I'll sneak onto there a Preston Innovation flying back lead, but obviously not have it flying, just have it locked in there. Again, that runs on the line. Obviously it's flying back lead, it runs on the line. And again, should the worst happen, it will come off, and you leave a hooking fish, which is not good at all. It's never good. But you know, he's not towing around ounces of lead and tubing and all the rest of it, which is going to kill it. So guys, that's really how I run my gear. The 3 rods with the heli setups I use above the weir, and the 2 rods with the running rigs on I use below the weir. That's all there is to it, really. I think now I'll run you through my hook links that I tie myself, just what I do with them, how I tie them up. I think I've run through bits and pieces of this before, but I'll just run you through again, so anybody who hasn't seen any of the previous videos can just see what I'm doing. Okay guys, I'll show you this on top of my tackle box. I think that'll be the easiest thing to do. All my hook links I keep in these 2 boxes here. This one, which has my shorter hook links in it, as you can see, already tied in there. If I put my hand in there for a bit of scale, you can see they're probably, I don't know what they're, 8-10 inches at the most, something like that. That's a sort of length hook link that I like to use, and I can, because I put all that tungsten tubing on my rods, I can get away with using these shorter hook links without spooking the fish. And in here, which is a Guru box, it's got all these winders, which I think are more designed for match guys, but they're brilliant for keeping long hook links on. There's a couple on there. just tend to keep 2 on each one. So you can get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You get 20 hook links in here. Now all these hook links I tie myself from, as you can probably see here, these are my 2 mainstay hook links materials, IQ and Illusion. I tend to use the Illusion for the longer ones, which are in here. This is slightly more supple. The IQ is much better, it's much stiffer for shorter ones. Shorter hook links, obviously much better self-hooking properties. So I do tend to use the short hook links made from IQ on the helicopter rigs above the weir. When fishing below the weir, I tend to use the Illusion because it's softer, and I use this much longer, maybe 18 inches, 2 foot. What I've also just started trying out is this uncoated dark matter braid, which you can see there, which is really nice supple material. If I get it in camera shot, you better see it. Really soft and supple. Now I'm not a great fan of braid, I have to say. I use it on my lure rod as a main line on my lure rod. Don't tend to use it as hook link material. I have used it in the past, as you'll see in here. I have some 10-pound sink braid from Drennan. I don't know if it's me, I mean everyone rates this stuff, but I don't know if it's me, but I never got on with it. It's too supple. I just get entangles all the time. I'm sure it was probably me, but couldn't get on with it at all, which is why I went over to the fluorocarbon. Plus I was using much shorter hook links and changed all my rigs anyway. That's left over from a good few years ago. But I've just bought this, as I say. I haven't actually tried it out yet. I've tied a couple of rigs up, which are in here, on these winders. So what I'm going to do is next trip, I'm going to try it out, see how I get on with that. But it does seem like a nice material. Anyway, back to the hook links. All my hook links are self-tied. It's probably easier to get one of these out because these are just longer versions of these. What I'll do is I'll pop one of these off. You'll be able to see what's going on. Take this one off, for example. Right guys, as you can see, I've got the hook in my fingers. This is the hair here. Now I tend to use 15mm boilies, and if you've seen my videos, you'll know that what I do is cut them in half and mount them back to back so the round sides are together with the flat sides on the end. Fill the middle up with paste, which is why that hair looks fairly long for a 15mm boilie, but that's what I do with it. That's why I've got long hair. And you see on the end of there, in the loop that I've tied, is a Drennan quick stop. I like these. I don't like messing about with hair stops. These things are fantastic. Push them straight through the bait. They're out. They're never going to come off there. You know your bait's going to stay on. You know, don't have any problem with perhaps the boilie stops popped off or anything. Not a problem at all. Coming down from that, you will see that I have this is a Corda curve shank. I think this is a size 6 by the looks of it. I've got a small piece of shrink tubing on there which I've shrunk on. It's a little bit high up actually, just sort of opposite the barb and the point to fish this blowback style. Knotless knot there, and the Fox liner liners there, micro liner liner, to just kick that out a bit more, to give that aggressive hooking angle. Again, this is IQ. Got a tungsten sinker in the middle of there, just to keep this all pinned down. Above that I've got these really long tail rubbers, which again helps with the anti-tangle properties. And above that is a loop which has been tied figure of 8 knot on there. And as you saw from this is 15-pound IQ. So that's what I tie my hook links from. There you go. Now that's for one sort of hook link, and what I've started to do is move away from that a little bit, because I found a different solution. If I open this box up here, take one of these off, Again, I've shown you this in previous videos, but if you haven't seen them, I'll show you now. Again, this is a longer hook link. See, on this winder, a little bit more fiddly, being longer. Carefully wind that off. What you'll see on here is my new rig that I've been trying out. Now I like fishing wafters, and I do like a D-rig, but it's a bit fiddly, and what I find much easier to do, much easier certainly to bait up with, is this rig. What I've got there is again a curved shanked hook, and locked in between two hook stops I've got a bait screw which has also got one of these additional little eyes on it to give it a bit more movement. There's plenty of movement there on that, as you can see. The idea being that the wafter will sit up off that. It's very, very quick and easy to change baits. You can change that really, really quickly. That's kind of what I'm moving over to rather than a D-rig, and it's been really successful so far. As you can see from that as well, that oily screw there it's actually 18mm, and that's my little finger in there. I've got reasonably big hands. And what I can do with this again is mount these back to back, mount the boilie, sorry, back to back on there, fill the middle up with paste. If I use a wafter, it's fairly well balanced as well. So that sits lovely in the current, wafting about in the current with some paste on leaking off, and that's what we've been catching these barbel on. I've recently started using this in the last month or so. It's been working with barbel really well. Had some bream on it as well, been nailed right in the middle of the bottom lip. So that's what I've been using recently rather than a D-rig. So guys, I hope that's answered any questions anyone's posed to me so far about what rigs I'm using and the gear I use and stuff. I think I've covered everything. I've probably forgotten something now, haven't I? If you've got any further questions or any comments to make or anything, stick them in the box down there, and I'll answer you as best I can. But until I see you again on the riverbank, tight lines, enjoy your own fishing, and I'll see you again next time.